Hey, look at this, man. I've never used this before in my life.
You look great, bud.
Like a pro.
So I'm a Zoomer now, man.
Look at you, all zooming.
I'm 2020.
Dude, you sounded so old. You just called it yourself a Zoomer. You sounded 75 years old, Dave. Come on, man. How the hell are you, dude?
Good. How's the sound from here?
Sounds good.
Sound good.
It's not echoing.
That's not bad. It's fine.
All right. Can you hear the fan?
No.
All right,
No.
cool. Then we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. It's good, man. How you guys been?
Everything's good, dude. We're just, moving along, just trying to, deal with the world, right? As crazy as it is, trying to get through things.
Fuck the world, right?
Dude, for real. How's it? I mean, you want to talk about different worlds from Ohio to California, right? I mean, that's just completely bonkers. How's it been with school with the kids and everything? Are they back at school? Or are they still trying to do the Zoom stuff? Or
I have two, right?
Yeah.
So it's different. So the reason it's different is my oldest is autistic. So he goes to a school that specializes in autism.
Yeah.
When they began the shutdowns in March, it was right around spring break, right?
Yeah.
He was out 1 week. So after 1 week, they started the online stuff with these kids, and nothing changed. So it was 6 or 7 classes a day, the same way it was, because they can't break the schedule with these kids.
Right.
So I give his teachers a lot of credit because he only missed maybe a week, and that was it. So the only adjustment I had to make from that was he's 18 now, but to him, school at home is not a thing.
Right.
Like, so he took over my office here at work. I just got it back, right? So he had it for like a year. Yeah, I was working out of the conference room, and then we cleaned out one of our storage rooms and so forth. So that was great. Now my other kid, I could go on a tyrant for forever on that.
How old is the youngest again?
My youngest is 15.
15. Okay.
And, yeah, basically what they did when they shut down is they gave him assignments on Sunday and said turn them in by next Saturday, and there was no classes at all.
None.
Wow. None. Now they acted like there were, but there were none. And that was for all of last year. So we got to the point where it's like, fuck these people.
Yeah.
We pulled him out and put him into a trade school.
Okay.
And so in the fall, we put him in the trade school, and then it was shared classing, because it's welding. Like, how are they going to do fucking online welding, right? And so he was doing that there for a while. With the split classes, but even with that, it was the same thing, that when it was the online part of the education, it's like, here's your assignment. In the last year, the most school he's had was 2 20-minute classes a week on Thursday last semester. That was it. And so for me, it was one of those things where, no, I know not all school systems are the same.
Right.
But it's like, I don't want to hear your bitching and bullshit when my kid in the last year has had maybe a total of 10 hours
Right.
of any instruction.
Right.
And my problem with this whole thing is I have a basic comparison.
Yeah.
My oldest.
Yeah.
They didn't even miss a week.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of, and I know it's a biased opinion, but it's like, don't tell me you care, because I saw people who care.
Yeah, those people really care.
Exactly. So it's different for everybody. You just make the best of what you can. So we had to move my youngest around a few times, so even when they started doing that shared stuff and it started to look like bullshit, it's like, okay, we're going to pull him out of this, and I'm going to pay for him to go to a trade school, to start collecting welding certifications. And if you open back up, so be it. He's just going to miss 2 weeks while he's getting the certification.
Right.
So that's kind of how I maneuvered around it, because I learned a long time ago, I'm not going to deal with the state's bullshit. It's
bureaucracy with everything.
Not like, California, you have young ones, right? So how'd that go?
Yeah, I have my twins are 13, and we just had Beatrix, but she's 6 months. So I mean, it's just brutal. I mean, we're really lucky that the girls are involved in sports, so the social aspect is pretty well taken care of. But I mean, they miss their friends, and I mean, it's a joke because they're done at like noon every day. I'm like, shouldn't you be in school? Shouldn't you be doing something? Why are you helping me with the kid? Or why are we playing catch? It's 12:30.
But they have instruction, though, right? I mean, there is that, they have that.
Well, yeah, it's all via Zoom, so kind of, similar, but again, the whole caring aspect, we can do, as many podcasts as you want on that aspect of things, where you have some people who are really trying to engage the kids and everything else. And then there's just something like you mentioned, you're like, hey, here's your work. We're just going to treat this as office hours. If you need to talk to me, cool. Otherwise, your shit's due on Friday, and then we're done. Any questions? And no one, no 13-year-old kid is going to be like, I have a question. They're all just going to bounce and go and play on the internet. So it's been a wild swing between people who are really trying, and then sadly, some of those people who really tried just gave up because they just didn't get any interaction from the kids anymore. So they're like, okay, well, if you guys don't want it, I'm going to stop caring. And that kind of broke my heart, because it's like, oh man, I could see this person trying and caring and doing good, and it all kind of backfiring just because no one gives a shit. So
yeah, I mean, I kind of live in my own little bubble, but I would say most of the parents I know, definitely more than 50%, probably 60%, they're never sending their kids back. They're going 100% online homeschooling. They're done because they already realize they can do it. They don't trust, what the teachers are going to be able to teach. So they're done. And I think that, it's fortunate for them keeping, they have options. A lot of people don't have those options, So the ones that have the options, I don't, from my own limited view, you know what I'm saying? I know like 5 people, so
well, it's crazy though, Dave. You'd be fucking astonished, man. There in where I'm at, there is a school district just above us, like 10 miles north, that 93% of the people, when they were offered to go back in person, said no. And then they also voted that they were not going to go back next year.
That's what I'm saying. You got to be careful because your view, a biased view, is not everybody. You just got to figure out how to do what's best for your own.
Yes.
And I mean, isn't that how it's always been though? It's just now everybody's being pushed.
Yeah, it's just you hope that everyone. It's just unfortunate because you have a parent like you or someone like your friends who actually care and have the ability to do these things, and you just think about the other kids whose parents are, trying to work a 12-hour day and they have nothing to do. You just think about how much of a setback this year is already a huge setback, let alone multiplying that, over and over and over again. It just gets.
No, that's awful to think about. I try not to think about that.
I know.
You go a step deeper, and then you got the parents that don't have the ability.
To
do that, and their kid. I mean, our kids let's not kid ourselves. All of our kids are already behind before this.
Yes, absolutely.
Before this, so now, the ones that have struggled to be able to just keep up are still behind, but the ones that were really behind, and I just had this discussion the other day because I think the last couple of years of high school, I mean, really, what do you learn? I mean, not a lot. So they'll probably be okay, right? They'll be fine. And but you get the younger ones, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, we don't know the implications of this, and we won't for another decade.
Yeah, and that's gonna be really scary.
Yeah. So I mean, that should be concerning to everybody.
I 100%
those agree. Are citizens, we're gonna have to. You can do by your own, but there's still people around you.
It should definitely be concerning for everybody. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna start letting some people come in. Awesome. Cool.
So Dave, how we're gonna do this is we're just gonna kind of start letting people in, and the whole idea behind this podcast, the Super Friends thing, is basically we're hoping that these people feel like they're walking into a conversation that they just like kind of walk by and maybe shouldn't they kind of trip into. So we do a couple things. So the first thing, we're going to do a quick little segment and just ask you to talk about 3 of the biggest mistakes you made when you kind of started with lifting, diet, or business, you're a really unique person. So you can kind of talk pretty well on all three of those options. Doesn't need to be really long, just like, a minute or two on something real quick. And then obviously, because we are collectively about 9 years old here, we would love a poop or a throw up story. The best one or the worst one. It doesn't have to be you. It could be anybody or any story. So if you don't mind, let's start with the 3 biggest mistakes I made, and just kind of go from there. And then we'll head into the poop stories, if you don't mind.
Okay, the 3 biggest training mistakes.
Doesn't have to be training. It could be training, diet, life, business, whatever.
Oh, that's simple. That's easier then, because
well, yeah, I mean, you can speak on so many different things. So I think I think it'd be mean of us to limit you. So just,
I mean, I've made more mistakes than most people I know, but the biggest mistake, bar none, was the way I treated my wife when I was competing. So I've made no reservations about that. I've been upfront about that. Is, I was a dick, right? Because training, competing was my number 1 priority. Anybody that knew me at the time knew that. Anybody who knew me at the time probably knew I was probably more of a dickhead than I should have been. I kind of am just naturally to begin with, but with her, it wasn't fair. And so when people ask me what I regret, that's the only regret I really have, because I should have done better, and it came back to bite me, and fortunately it worked out for the best, but I didn't need that. I didn't need that experience to be able to learn that lesson. I should have been able to learn it beforehand. That's the biggest, right? Anything else is just down here and just the clusterfuck of, all the different mistakes. If there's another one, is I have, even now, and it's kind of fucked up, training for health just still doesn't jive with me. I've always trained for like a purpose. And even though last time I competed was like 2004, I just keep setting these different objectives to be able to go after, which they're not as extreme as what they used to be, but I kind of need those to, I love to train. I love to train hard. If I was sentenced to just exercise for health, I don't think I would. I haven't figured that out, right? And that's, I see that now as probably being a mistake, because if I make it to 70, what am I going to do? Like, do a year training cycle to see if I can pull 315? It's like, so that's one
that you're a Zoomer. So I mean, you're not that
exactly. Now that I'm a Zoomer, I got more access to different people to be able to do that. But seriously though, when people are talking and there's conversations and the whole exercise and training just starts to gravitate towards health, I don't give a fuck. And that's not a good thing. I try to pay attention, but it's just, and maybe it just hasn't clicked yet. So that would be another mistake, because it's probably going to come back to haunt me at some point. Third one is, there's so many. I mean, it's everything, I can't, there's nothing that really sticks out, if you pick a year and month, right. I can pick certain things, but that's that. So what was the other part then?
We want your favorite, doesn't necessarily need to be you, poop or throw up story.
There's no such thing as a favorite poop story.
Well, like I said, best or worst, right? It doesn't have to be
here's one
that you know of. Yeah.
This is both, right?
Excellent.
So, okay. Going back to what I was talking about with this whole training thing is, I have, it's gonna sound like I'm in fucking Narcotics Anonymous. It's like, I'm a trainer. I have a problem. I have this problem of training legs by myself, right? And it's not what you think. Most people are like, oh, legs suck. For me, and I know there's this big backlash now that training's not therapy and all this other crap. For me, it is. Right. For me, that legs is like the best therapy of all, because of the self-punishment you can do. You just can't kill a set of dumbbell curls and punish yourself the same way as a challenge set of leg presses where your normal set at, say, whatever you do for your normal set at 10, you're like, fuck it, I'm doing 35.
Yeah.
And then you do 35. So to get to your answer, back when I was training with Meadows, and we worked ourselves up over a period of time into a lot of really insane training. So when people would come out and train with us, they'd vomit. They didn't understand there was 2 years of this gradual process to be able to get to this stupid shit we were doing. There was one day where he wasn't there, and he wasn't going to be there, and so I'm training at night, and I don't know what led up to this leg press set that I did, but it was a leg press set, and it ended up being a strip set and negatives, and it just extending the set, right? So the set, I don't know how long it lasted, but it was a long fucking time, and it was, you're breathing hard, all this other stuff. And I know there were squats before this. There was like 4 things that were really brutal before this. All I remember that day is waking up on the floor about 5-10 minutes later in my own feces. No, I puked first, right? So I puked first. I puked in the puke bucket, and I'm like, well, this is kind of normal, right? And it was hot, you know.
Sure.
So it's like that was normal on sets like that, because it's not so much the puking, it's the breathing, right? The breathing gets so disrupted, then you start dry heaving, and then, you know, the rest is what it is. But I woke up, you know. So then when I woke up, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? You know, like, what happened? And then I realized I'm in my own shit. I pissed myself and shit myself, and it's like, holy fuck, what just happened? And this can't be a good thing, right? And then I still got hamstrings to do, you know, and what am I supposed to do here? So fortunately, it all worked itself out, right?
Well, hold on a second. What does work itself out mean? Does that mean that you just threw your shit away and worked out naked, or did you go and do a bunch of hamstring curls with a load in your fucking?
No, I finished. I mean, well, I here's the thing, it was in my older place that we never had air conditioning, but I knew at that time, because it was in the summer, so I'd bring in a cooler, and in the cooler I'd have cold packs. So we had cold packs for our head, a cold pack for our neck, and so I took my shit off. Obviously, it's full of shit, right? So I took my shit off, and I had to use baby wipes that were in the gym. It was a fucking little bit of a mess, right? Well, I had to sit there anyhow, because I didn't think it'd be right to drive.
Right.
Because I to this day, I think maybe I had a stroke. You know, I really do. So
now I feel
I
bad.
sat there.
It's terrible.
I mean, so you pass out, you wake up in your own shit. It's not good. So I put the packs and everything on, and then after like 10 or 15 minutes, well, yeah, you know, all I got to do is some hamstrings. It was like leg curls. There was a couple. I did those things and then left, and you know, I didn't die. You know, so it was fine. But I do think something probably happened there that wasn't good.
Yeah, that's normally not a good reaction.
But to your point though, puke and shit at the same time.
That is actually
and urine.
That's the first of the trifecta for us. So I think, you know, you automatically just skyrocketed yourself to the top of the list. So
I'll give you another one, because I just did a YouTube video the other day.
awesome.
Right? And it was about drinking a gallon of milk.
Oh God.
Right. So
I think anyone who's a power lifter who has followed you probably has a very similar story, because I know I have a story that I would guess is going to mimic your story very, very closely.
So I never really did any of that crap. I knew people that did, but then everybody at Westside started doing it with the chocolate milk. I'm like, what the fuck? Maybe I should. I got through like the first day, like a day and a half. And while I was in the store and I was going to buy 6 gallons, because I'm like, okay, I made it through a day. I'm going to invest in the other now. I blew up that bathroom so bad. And it was in Kroger. I couldn't even get to the right. And you know, it's the cramping one there. It was like the other one. I did it. I didn't even know I shit myself. I was passed out.
Right.
This one, you're like, oh, and you start to get those stomach knots, and you're like, I can't make it. I gotta. And it was one of those where you sit and it just explodes, and the shit went up underneath the toilet seat and all over your ass, and that was a mess. And it just exploded for a while.
And this is probably 270 plus, Dave, at this point too.
Oh, that was 300. I mean, it was a bombshell that came out. It doesn't normally come out like that. I mean, it was just boom, boom, and it hit the water so hard that you feel the backlash on your ass and you're like, oh no. And you're looking at the toilet paper and it's that shitty paper. You can only get the one little piece off.
Yeah.
So you're trying to figure out how you're going to clean your ass. That was gross. That was fucking gross.
Yeah. Very similar stories, but dude, that was awesome. What a great way to start. Hopefully everyone is starting to sign in. I think we're going to do a quick intro from Mark, and then we'll kind of I don't know exactly where we go from from here, but I think we're gonna do our best to try and have a little bit more of a conversation. So here's an intro from Mark, and then we'll kind of get going for the official podcast as we go.
Let's see.
That was amazing.
Welcome to Super Friends, exclusively here on markbell.com. My super friend right here is Dave Tate. Dave Tate is somebody that I admire, I look up to, and not only have I admired him for a long time and looked up to him for a long time, but I actually have also had the honor of Dave Tate being a mentor of mine. And he was monumental in my success and monumental in me starting to think about myself as somebody that could one day be an entrepreneur. I went to a seminar that Dave Tate held in Columbus, Ohio at the grounds of Westside Barbell, the legendary Westside Barbell Club owned by Louis Simmons. And in this seminar, Dave Tate told a story about how he was, when he was in school, when he was a kid, he was made fun of a lot. He didn't feel so smart. He was dyslexic, had a hard time learning, had a hard time reading, and just really had a rough go of it. And he told it as a story about this kid that was in school that was really having a hard time. And then he said, that kid now stands before you at this very seminar, and he was referring to himself. And that day and that moment right there was huge for me, because I was like, okay, this guy owns a business. He owns EliteFTS.com. He's very successful. He used to be a personal trainer. Now he's a power lifter. He left behind the personal training career to pursue this entrepreneurship. And in his journey to pursue his entrepreneurship, he was able to attack his goals of being the best possible power lifter that he could be, all while sharing information with other people. So if you look at what Dave Tate did, I'm a carbon copy of what he did, because I was so inspired that day. I was like, you know what? He was a dumb, fat little kid, and so was I. And so if he could do it, I bet you that if I give it a good shot, if I just work hard at it, I can probably figure it out too. And so from that day on, I really worked hard on focusing on knowing for myself that I could learn. And through that very seminar that Dave Tate was teaching that day, I learned that I can learn. And before that time, unfortunately, I didn't really think that of myself. I viewed myself as dumb. I viewed myself as stupid. I viewed myself as not having the ability to really learn. But when it was something I was interested in, which was powerlifting, which was Dave Tate was talking about, I was able to consume that information, remember that information, and not only remember it and consume it, but be so interested in it that I did a lot of my own research. So I have Dave Tate to thank for that. And Dave Tate has a lot of great information to share with you guys about his powerlifting career, about his days at Westside Barbell, and as his days of kicking ass as an entrepreneur. And one of the things he's most proud of, which is being a mentor, not to me, but to many, many other people. Guys, you're gonna love what Dave Tate has to say. Check it out. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later.
There we go. Dave Tate, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks for being here. For anyone who missed it, you're gonna have to rewatch the start of our podcast, because Dave just crushed everyone's soul with two of the most brutal poop and throw up and piss stories combined. But hey, man, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. We know your time is very valuable, and we really, if I had a list of people that I wanted to get onto this podcast, you were, if not the one, probably top 3. And that's because not only, did you circumventedly, be a mentor to Mark, you're also a mentor to me. And I think for anyone who's in the strength industry, by proxy of EliteFTS, a mentor and, helping so many people, start a career and do the things that they were able to do in powerlifting and strength and conditioning. So, this is, we've known each other, for a long time. And it's always an honor just to kind of get to talk to you and get to pick your brain and just to kind of be around someone who's been through what you have been through and what you've done. So again, man, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you guys for having me on.
So, we always try and go and start with origin stories here. And for someone who's bigger than life with you, the origin story, kind of Smelly started to explain a little bit about it. What do you want to add to kind of what, Mark talked about as far as your origin story, as far as kind of get going? Because one of the biggest questions we get asked here at markbell.com and Super Training is, how do you start? How do you take that first step? What's the first thing that you do? And I always think that stories of how people got to where they are, it doesn't necessarily explain exactly that, but it at least, create a little bit of a landscape that maybe some people can kind of understand or look at and kind of see some familiar things like Mark did. So would you want to add anything to kind of, whether it's lifting or business, just help talk us through, a little bit about how you got going and how you we'll figure out how we got to where we are talking about poop stories, being Zoomers as we go. But what would you like to add to, how would you tell your story?
Mark is correct. Growing up, it was kind of in the days to where they were trying to figure out how to characterize learning disabilities. So at the beginning, it was just LD. As LD, I had the tutor and that kind of stuff. Then it was dyslexia. Then it's just every year there was just a different thing. And so as a kid, all is what you're around, right? So you have the teachers that are saying, well, he shouldn't be in this class. He should be in, the special ed, or he needs to go see this tutor. And, I remember I always had this little picture of a clock on my desk, which showed the actual time that I was supposed to go, leave the regular class and go to the special ed class. And I even remember at the time, like, why is this here? Like, I understand what 11 o'clock means, but because this is here now, everybody else in the class is like throwing spitballs and, saying stupid shit like, that's your desk retard and, all this. So that was a big part of the whole thing was, it's a toxic environment, I suppose, but I didn't choose it. It's just what I was in. Right. So when you're around different people, well, I guess the point that I'm trying to say, along this path, at certain periods of time, there were people that were outliers of everybody else, right? So another big factor up until the reason I started wrestling and lifting weights and all the other stuff is because I was getting my ass kicked every day on the way home, so all this kind of coincides with, I start wrestling. And this is all the way now in like 6th, 7th grade, something like that. And I lost every match, obviously, my first year. I just get my ass kicked because there's no confidence, right? There's just a stupid kid with no confidence, it's just, and you're tracked in school. This kid, we're just going to get this kid to graduate. And that went all the way through high school. So that was the only goal, just graduate, not college prep, none of this other stuff. And I had a wrestling coach where I don't know what the fuck happened. My mom was late picking me up and I was running the stairs after practice. And then something just clicked. We're like, what, I'm just going to keep running these stairs until she gets here. And then she was late. And then there was a point in time to where everything's closed down. The wrestling coach is kind of waiting for me to leave. Actually, he was leaving because the door is self-locked. And he said, just make sure the door is locked. He says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm sick and tired of getting beat. He says, you keep working harder than everybody else, you'll never get beat again. And I stayed and ran another hour and made my mom sit out there in the car. That one sentence right? Changed my life. So here's the thing with this though, everybody has stories like this. Everybody's got a mentor that said something a certain period of time. Mark just kind of talked about that right there, right? You got to be in the right mindset to receive that at that time, right? And then when you receive it, what are you going to do with it, right? So yes, that guy changed my life with what he said, but I had to do the actions after that to push forward. But I needed that little push, right? And then it was like, now wait a minute, somebody fucking believes in me.
Right.
You know, I'm going to work harder for this guy. I'm going to work so hard that I'm the last person to leave every single time I'm in any one of his sports. And I never got beat again in wrestling, you know, because now he's seeing that and he's seeing that up click. So it's not just about me, right? It's about that person that reached out, then that person that understands, now wait a minute, there's something going on here. And going back many years later and thanking him for that, he had no idea. He had
Right.
no idea, right? And there's been a couple cases throughout my life. One that was with working hard. The other one was education. You know, there was, you know, my parents kind of figured out when I was in high school that I was tracked just to graduate, and I wasn't going to graduate. My grade point was too low. So we had to finagle some things so I would get a 1.6. So this is my creativity. The last 2 years I was in high school, I was in the weight room from first period until fifth. It was just how study halls were structured. Then the coaches would write me out of study hall. And then there was lunch. And so I was training twice a day, you know, once there, then once with the other guys I was training with later. And so anyhow, that all worked out. I graduated, but we didn't realize, I didn't care, because now I was in a position to where grades were kind of being taken care of. I wasn't the A student, but I was no longer getting F's or D's because they wanted to keep me eligible,
Right.
you know, to be able to play. So, and I never took a book to class. I never took a book home all through high school. This is honest to God truth.
Yeah.
And so the last year I had to start taking college, and forget it. So I go to Bowling Green, right? So I get accepted to a school. No, I didn't even accept it. I didn't get accepted anywhere. I had to go to Tiffin University, which is a business school. It was the only place in Ohio that would take me. So I go there and spend the first year taking classes I was supposed to take in high school: algebra, biology. I took business math. I took rock science. These are the courses I took. So I'm taking these my first year of college. So none of those count for credit, right? So, and I did well. Small class size. I'm like, holy shit, I'm a genius. I didn't know I was a genius. I'm a genius, right? But the course material was like 7th grade, 8th grade course material. And so then I decided to transfer to Bowling Green State University. I go there and I flunk out the first semester. 200 class, 200 people classes, nobody gives a fuck about you. You get a syllabus. So I just didn't think I had to go to class. The
Right.
things that a lot of other people do, I just can't get away with. And so I go home, and that summer I was working as a strength and conditioning coach, kinda more of a volunteer, but the only volunteer there for the football team. Because throughout all this, I was a good lifter. I was put into a power lift. We can talk about that later, but I was a very good lifter. And so I was helping them. And another coach, one of my former wrestling coaches, different than the other one, catches me in the parking lot. He's like, man, how you doing? And I'm like, this school thing, man, obviously it's not for me. My background kind of hit me. It's just not, I'm looking for a job. I got a job at the place I was working at the time makes Sunny Delight orange juice. I'm like, I got a job out there at Sundor. Right now I'm just stacking pallets, or packing pallets, and maybe I'll work. And he said, that's not what I asked you, man. I said, how are you doing? Then I started telling him about my training. Like, my training's kicking ass, man. I'm like, I found this place in Bowling Green. It's called a library, right? Because honest to God, I never went to a library before. Right. Went into a library and I found the National Strength and Conditioning Journal. I found the International Journal of Sport Nutrition. I found the Soviet Sport Review. I would sit in that fucking place for 4 hours, photocopy things. I learned so much about strength training, but then I was applying it.
You were never in a library until you got to college?
No.
That's amazing.
I never had a need.
Right.
Right. So this, I don't even know why I went. I think I went there because somebody said they had this international, or they had the International Journal of Sport Nutrition. I'm like, what the fuck's that? I got to see this.
Yeah.
You know, then like, oh my God. So I'm telling him this. I'm like, man, this shit that we were doing, there's better ways to train than just like working up to 315 every time. There's way better ways. And so he said, well, how's school going? And that's when I said, look, I flunked out, all this stuff. And he said, he says, your problem is, because I was blaming it on, I didn't have the cognitive ability. And he said, your problem is not that. He says, you're not stupid, you're fucking lazy. And when another sentence, right? And it pissed me off when he said that. But then as I was driving home, I pulled over and I started to question myself. You know, like, say you're trying to lift a max weight and that Animal House thing happens where it's like, fuck her, suck her tits, you know, don't, you know, that just that you know what I'm talking about? Those voices start, right?
Yes.
You know, like, am I lazy? No, I'm not lazy. Are you? And you're like, motherfucker. And it starts fucking with your head because now you don't know.
Right.
Right. So I probably broke down. I cried there for an hour and a half because I didn't know. Like, was I just mind fucked my entire fucking life?
Right.
Because his point was, how did you learn all this stuff about training when it wasn't even a class?
Yeah.
And you ripped out more about training than he had ever heard in his entire life. And how can I sit there and tell him I don't have the cognitive ability? What I was basically telling him is I'm fucking lazy and that it's going to take longer. So then I went back and that's how I ended up graduating. You know, so those sentences, to not be so lengthy about all this, you got to put yourself around the people that are going to be able to make those changes. If you're not around those people personally, right? He could have told me that on the phone and wouldn't have done the same thing. As when I look in his eyes and he, you know what, it's a different thing, you know, when you're right there with that person and you can see what they're saying is authentic and true, because that burns in your soul, right? And when it burns in your soul where you got to pull over to the side of the road and it fucks you up, you know, that much and wonder, you know, you have. But again, I had to do the action. I had to go back, and then I also realized I have to study 8 times more than everybody else. And when it comes to learning things, I can't absorb things the same way other people do. I got thousands of books out here in the office, but I can tell you what book it's in. So I may not be able to rip out it and tell you right now, but I do know I've read it. I do know it's in there, and I do know where to go get it.
I have a question for you. Did you actually, I mean, I know that there was a whole different kind of a way about going things, LD or whatever it was. Did you ever go back and really find out, like, do you have some sort of a learning disability? Because I mean, you know, sitting in front of us, you know, and just like those coaches, you know, I find it improbable that you do. Did you just understand? Did you just need to understand your learning style, or did you ever go back and revisit that, or did you just say, "Fuck it, I know how to learn. I don't even give a shit what the fuck it was"?
I don't want to go back because I don't ever want to let anybody fucking put a victim tag on me.
Right. Okay.
So I don't want to go back. Right.
Yeah,
I don't want to know. Right. So here's a tricky thing though. You know, I'm stubborn like that. I have an autistic kid. You know, so I had a lot of struggles when he was going through the diagnostic process, because it's like, no, this is not happening. This happened to me. I know what it did to me. Fuck you. This isn't going to happen. Right. So I had to pivot a lot. Right. Because there's services that you can get that you can't get otherwise. And so while I'm saying what I'm saying, I'm not saying it as advice. I'm saying it's what was best for me. And what is best for me. It is not what I did with my own kid.
Right.
You know, people have to do what's best for themselves, you know, and for their others. I don't want to sit there and listen to somebody's bullshit and try to tell me that the worst thing anybody can do for me is to tell me a reason why I can't do something, because it pisses me off. You know, I never expect that I'm going to be the best. You know, I've been around enough amazing, genetically gifted, crazy ass special people to know that's more than likely not me, but I can be in the fucking top 10%. So I'm not going to deal with any, nobody's going to tell me that I can't do that. Like Powerlifting USA, right? Remember the top
Right.
100?
Yeah,
But you look at that, and I was the dude that's like, man, fuck, there ain't no way I'm going to be fucking number 1, but where's 10? I can do that.
Yep.
Where's that? You know,
Yeah.
and then that may be self-limiting too. That's a whole nother conversation, but that's why I don't care. I don't want to know.
All right, I just wanted to kind of see if you ever kind of went back, but that's interesting. Can we pivot for a question? Just for a second, when you went back and talked to that initial wrestling coach, how was that conversation? Was that, I mean, I got to think it was extremely kind of cathartic and really cool for you. You said he had no idea that he had really inspired you, but I mean, he had to watch your trajectory through high school and then kind of at least recognize that you became an achiever. I think it's pretty amazing that he didn't take credit for it, but you know, when did you go back? Was that, you know, I mean, after college, or, you know, I mean, you know, a year or two ago, or when did you go back? How, talk us through that, because that's fascinating for me, because I think that's, first of all, I think that's amazing that you went back and did that, because I don't think a lot of people recognize that, you know, one sentence from someone can be such a lightning bolt and change the trajectory of someone's life. And I think it's pretty cool that you actually gave him some credit for that. How was that? How was that whole thing? How's that story?
There's been several people like that, and I've told every single one of them. Some of them, it ended up because these are stories that I wrote in the Under the Bar book, or that I wrote in the Raising the Bar book. So my parents already gave them the book. So they kind of saw that. So I knew after that if I didn't go and say something that's probably the wrong thing, that I probably needed to do that. But I was resistant against it as well, because I hold them all in this very high esteem. And sometimes when you hold people in these high esteems and then you meet them, they don't end up being what you thought.
Right.
So I had to come to terms with, before this, even if they don't end up being what I thought they were when they said it, and that's all that mattered. And the reason why I started EliteFTS is because of people like those. So that's the only reason I really started. That's the whole live, learn, pass on type thing. That's why the content's free. It's why it's always been free. It is for that. And so I wanted them to know that if I was the only one that ever came back and said, you made a difference in my life, you know, they could see here's where it went from there, because it is rare. It is rare that anybody ever goes back. Very rare. I can count on maybe one hand, two hands possibly, the number of people that have said anything to me. And it's just how it is. It's just life, right? So it is. So you can't, the first thing is, I don't want to get too spiritual here, but it doesn't matter to me, you know, because I don't matter. It doesn't matter to me if somebody comes back and says that I did good, I didn't do good. I worry about what he thinks, right? Because that's the only person I ever have to answer to, ever. So if I'm good with that, then I'm okay. Then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So I don't need the accolades. I don't need any of that stuff. But I do think other people might, you know, and especially teachers. No, that's a different conversation from today, right? But I don't want to go down that road. But you know, before, you know, all this crap, because now people either hate them or, you know, actually probably more people hate them today than love them. And that's just the situation that's beyond any of our controls. But before that, you know, they weren't, yeah. I'll just stop there because I can keep going.
No, I agree with you. And you know what? I mean, as much as you say that you don't need, you know, people to come back to you and tell you what you've done, you know, when I was preparing for this podcast, it was really difficult for me, because I know that, you know, you had said things and we had talked, and they have made such a great impact in my life personally, very personally, and, you know, a couple other things. And I think very much just like your wrestling coach, I don't think you ever had any clue what that really meant to me. And one of those times was when my life was, you know, completely falling apart. and you put up some like post on EliteFTS, and I just kind of commented on it. And you shot me a message back, and you know, it was just like, oh, you know, thanks, whatever. And you asked me a question. You said, hey, how are you doing? And I was just like, to be honest with you, I'm not doing really good at all right now. And you're like, fuck, dude, if you ever need to call me, here's my number. And I mean, for a kid who was just starting in the powerlifting thing, and, you know, Elite Fitness was the entry for me into all this other stuff, to get to be able to have your phone number and get a conversation with you and get a couple of just lightning bolts of just like, hey man, you know what, this happens to everybody. You're okay. Just keep working hard, keep doing good by, you know, you and the kids and everything, and, you know, everything will be fine. You know, I hope that I don't sound like, you know, I'm trying to come around and make an apology for it. But it's one of those things where I'm not sure you even remember that conversation or you remember anything along those lines. But, you know, I would count myself in the thousands of people that you've probably done that for. And I think it's a great disservice that people haven't kind of come back and said those things. And this was kind of, you know, this was a vehicle for me to be able to, you know, thank you for all the stuff that you did do, because I'm not sure you quite understand, or you will allow yourself to admit, you know, how much of an impact you've had on so many other people, you know, very, very much like me. And, you know, I hope that I hope you understand how important that you are. And I hope that, you know, you take solace and you are proud of, you know, who you are and what you've done. And I appreciate the fact that you are so humble about it. But I mean, Dave, dude.
I do. I get, and I appreciate what you're saying, but I always kind of ricochet it back, because you still have to take the actions, right?
True.
And you do, you know, and I do remember a conversation I had with you about a certain topic that we won't bring up, that you were in a bad spot. And you still had to tread those waters, man. You had to do that. Nobody can do that for you, you know. So, you know, other people can kind of give you a little bit of hope, and that's a nice little break.
Right.
But you got to get right back in the fucking mud again. And, you know, people, you need to take, like I said, I'm going to ping it back, right? Because you need to take credit for that, because those are muddy waters sometimes that you got to go through, that tread really fucking slow and are really, really hard. And you didn't get through those because somebody said something to you. You know, so yeah, but I get what you're saying, and I appreciate it. So
yeah, I think what we just keep coming back to is I would think the word care, you know what I mean? Like that, you know, your wrestling coaches, you know, cared enough, or you had some sort of, you know, you thought of them as someone who is important, and to hear it from someone important that actually cares about who you are, not necessarily just Dave the wrestler, but, you know, Dave the person, and, you know, Jesse the person, you know, I think that's where it really comes down to. And I think that's something amazing that you've done over and over again, is that you've shown through everything that you do, not only just passion, but that you care about this stuff. And I don't know if I've ever met anyone who's cared about like weightlifting more than you have. I mean, I remember stories of you, you know, telling stories about, you know, doing lat pull downs until you cried, and like all these other things where you're just like, this is who you are. And I thought it was always so impressive that you found out who you were, and you knew who you were, and you were completely 100% unapologetic about who you were, why you were doing these things. And this is just exactly who you were. I think in a world that we're living in now, where no one has a fucking clue who they are, let alone like what pronoun you want to be called. I think it's fascinating. And I think it's pretty amazing that you had the wherewithal to really kind of look in the mirror and turn things back on yourself and just realize who you were, and just be like, hey, this is who I am. This is how I learn. This is how I do things. This is how I'm going to succeed. And you just stepped on the gas pedal and you went fucking forward, and just never. And then the whole thing about, I don't ever want to fucking look back. I mean, it's so goddamn impressive, Dave. It really is. And, you know, you don't give yourself enough credit. And hopefully you can take a little bit of credit, or at least smile at it. I think you're, you know, there's so much great things, buddy. There's the one smile. Thanks, bud. I appreciate that. But, you know, it's, you know, not to go too far down that thing, but let's talk about kind of you know, mentors. So you kind of talked about the two mentors that you had, and then, you know, you kind of move more into powerlifting.
yes.
And you kind of find West Side, and you find Lou, and then things kind of just went bonkers, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, my dad, I was also through this time period in school, I was also getting in a lot of trouble. And so, especially when I started to get just a little bit stronger, because then it was vengeance is a bitch, right? So things started to turn there. And
Did you have a list of people?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Did you check them all off?
oh yeah.
Attaboy.
And it was the wrong thing to do, but anyhow.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe looking back, sure.
Live and learn. But my dad, he owned a small business, and I come from a line of, my grandfather had a small business, both sides, my dad. So I know that landscape pretty well. And there was a private powerlifting club in the town and where I grew up called Finley Barbell Club, and it was powerlifters. And he worked a deal with the person that was one of the owners there who happened to also be the chief of narcotics. And so a lot of cops trained there. So in my dad's mind, this is a good place for my kid to go, because these people are going to be around him and they're going to be able to keep his ass in line, and at least so we didn't have to keep going to court like we were doing. And so he put me, and I was probably later into 12, maybe right there, because I did my first meet when I was 13. And as soon as I got there, you start training for a meet. So I did train in a garage for a little bit with a buddy of mine, and in the wrestling with the universal machine, that kind of stuff. And I was stronger than everybody else really quick. So I didn't know why at the time, it's just obviously my genetics were suited for it, but there was probably demons in there that were making me to train a little bit harder too. So when I got in with them, it was structured. It was linear periodization. It was more structured. Technique was harped on, so it was, looking back, I was blessed like you can't believe for this to be able to happen. So for me to be able to graduate, I graduated high school, and this is single ply gear. And you know how the gear thing went, there's no raw or anything like that. So it was single ply, no bench shirt, because I didn't really know they even existed at the time. And maybe they didn't. I had at 242, I had a 700, a 500, and a 640 the summer after graduating high school at 242. So that put me in this space, right, to where, in school, I was obviously by far the strongest person there that they've ever seen. And they only let me compete once as a teenager, because they wanted me to compete against the stronger lifters. So my expectations changed, because I didn't know what was good. I mean, you're in a gym, everybody's benching 400 pounds. It's like, well, fuck, I should be benching like 300. And then why not? Then, so there are a lot of things that played into my favor that I was blessed with that. So Louis knew who I was before I even started college, because he would help in the warm-up room. Ed Cohn would help in the warm-up room, but Louis was one. And then Matt Dimmel even more so after that. So then when I went to college, I drifted away from it just a little bit, because it was the first time I ever went to a gym that had machines. I'm like, holy shit, this is why the people in the magazines are so jacked. It's obviously not the squats and benches, because I'm not jacked like that. It's got to be this. So that was where I spent a couple years dabbling around with bodybuilding and, that kind of crap, and then fell back into the powerlifting. And then when I fell back into it, that's when I really started researching things a lot more, because my lean body mass, I was probably 20 pounds heavier, way leaner, way bigger, and way fucking weaker, way weaker. It's like when I squatted the 720, this is a powerlifter speaking, right? So when I squatted the 720 after high school, I probably could have done 750. This is the powerlifter talk, but I probably could have, right? Yeah. When I came back at a weight class heavier, 275 leaner, I squatted 640, and it was fucking hard. I couldn't have squatted 645. Right. So at that point, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I don't understand, because it was the same linear training that I was doing before. That's why I started looking at stuff. And that's when Louis saw me compete in the same meet, the meet after that one. And he came up to me and he's like, what the hell's going on? You're big as fuck. What are you doing? That's why he's so weak. Right. And so I'm trying to, I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. He started helping me over the phone, because everything he was telling me, I thought was bullshit. Back then, this dynamic stuff, where I couldn't find it anywhere. And
Right.
he's like, well, the research says, and I'm thinking to myself, what research, dickhead? I'm looking everywhere. I can't find this. Well, the Russian books, well, where are they?
Right.
I can't find them either. So for years, I thought he just made the shit up, and then he handed me a couple of those books. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I get this. So that's why I came to Columbus, was because of Louis. And I tore my pec right before I came, and it needed to be the first surgery I had powerlifting related was that. And the surgeon told me I'd never bench 400 again because of how everything looked in there. And I'm like, that didn't really phase me because I should have benched 100 pounds more than I did at the time. So what he was really saying is 500 instead of 400. So then I'm still competitive.
Sure.
So I liked what Louis was saying, but then when I got there, we still butted heads for a little bit. But once I finally bought into it, he became a huge mentor for a lot of different reasons. There were business reasons, there were helping other people reasons, there was training reasons, and so he's definitely one of those people. But that's how I ended up at Westside, and everything started to go up. Because it was stagnant. My total was stagnant at like 1820 to 1890 for 5 years. And before going to Westside, the decision I was making is, I'm going to graduate. Is it time just to hang this up? Because obviously, because I had professors telling me, well, you've hit your ceiling. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, everybody has this genetic ceiling. And I don't know if I necessarily disagree with that, right? But because I'm sure everybody does. But how do you know that's mine? And I'm like, well, 5 years, now you're starting to get hurt. You're tearing shit off. You're probably butting against that, and the final decision was I couldn't walk away without knowing, for the same thing again, right? The same mindset again, walk away without knowing for sure. I had to know for sure. And then it took Louis to be able to kick me in the nuts, because the first year there, I was not buying in. And him to kick me in the nuts to be able to say, what did you come here for? Because if you're going to come here and not do what we're telling you to do, then why didn't you just quit?
Right.
And so then things took off.
So let's pause for a second, if you don't mind, and let's talk about Lou. I don't know if there's anyone else around that has maybe known Louis for longer and had a relationship, more dynamic, let's call it, than you and Lou. How have you always have been very positive talking about Lou and very thankful for what he's done for you. You call him a mentor, call him your coach still. And I know even when you had your gyms at EliteFTS, you were still going back and forth to Westside. How, because Louis probably better than anybody else, what is your opinion on how he has been kind of portrayed and his kind of just like who he is in, as a person, him and Doris, going out to dinner and all of the things that Lou as, to who Louis is being portrayed as, whether it's just his media persona or someone, painting these pictures of him. What are your thoughts on how that is kind of progressed? Has Lou always just been Lou? Is it just, it's just who he is?
People don't understand who Lou is.
Right.
So they might make him out to be more than he's a human. Right. So, and I'm grateful for everything he's done. He helped start our business. He gave us product on consignment. And so that, I'm grateful for a lot of things that he's done. But the fact of the matter is, his drive in life is to produce the strongest athletes he can. So that's his bubble. That's where he's in. If you fall in that bubble, he treats you grand. He'll do anything for you. You fall outside of that bubble, you're a distraction, right? Doesn't mean he hates you. Doesn't mean he's going to come after you. He just doesn't care, right? You have to, and I realized that very soon. And the way that I looked at it was, if I played football for Bill Belichick, he's going to have standards and expectations that he wants of me that I have to achieve. If I can't meet those, get the fuck out. You're bringing everybody else down, right? If I leave and go to another team, I don't fucking care about you,
Right.
That's not my job. This is my job. And people might think, oh, that's callous, just being an asshole. But what part of this did you ever think that you were friends? Right?
Yeah.
There's different roles that people serve.
Sure.
Right. And as long as you know that, right, then, and you don't let that become polluted. I'm not going to say he doesn't have friends. I'm sure he does have friends, but they're probably not the people that are in the gym that he's trying to push to be the best. They may think so. And that's where things get a little weird, right? Because a lot of people, as you know, a lot of people that will leave hate him.
Yeah.
But think, right? So you've been around a long time too. Ask them what they think about him 5 years after that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Changes, right?
Yep.
Because they look back and they see what role they filled, what role he filled, what he did. So he's a challenging person, right?
That was so politically well done.
Yeah, right? So
absolutely.
I will never speak bad about the guy, right? And we've had our ups and downs, right? And the downs have been, some pretty deep downs, but in the grand scheme of things, the ups far exceed any of that. And I know what's most important to him, right? And it's that. So how people perceive that's not his fault. How
Right.
you perceive somebody, that's you. That's not the other person.
Yeah.
So how do I feel about how other people perceive him? Look in the mirror, fuckhead. That's you.
Yeah.
So but I do understand what you're saying, because we kind of run in the same circles. And I think sometimes people think that this is really something different than what it really is.
I just always think that, I'm always disappointed that the people who have a lot of negative things or quote unquote hate Lou speak so much louder than the people who he's done so good by. And a lot of those people who hate Lou now forget about all the meals that he bought them, all the money and all the things that he helped a lot of other people out.
Well, here's the thing with that though. Nobody's going to say it to his face. And it's not because he's going to punch him or anything like that. They just won't say it to his face. He doesn't go online for anything.
Right.
So anything that you read negatively about Louis online, it's just wasted effort. He's not going to see it.
Right.
I mean, Jim and I used to ask him about people, like, hey, what do you think about Coach so-and-so? And he's like, who the fuck is, he didn't know who the fuck it was.
Right.
He did a video a few years ago. Steffi Cohn came out to the gym. He didn't know who she was.
I know.
That shows you his bubble, right? So you can be like, oh, he's disconnected, but disconnected to what? Because to me, what I see is a man who's entirely 100% connected to the people he's working with to help. Right. Who do you want to coach you? The person that knows what's going on all over the internet and Instagram and everything else, or the person that knows what's going on in your head to be able to get you stronger?
Yeah. So let's talk about, you were one of the first people who I had ever read about or hear talk about, learning styles and communication styles in the terms of like coaching. I don't know if it was an interview or something that you wrote where you would actually have to kind of play good cop, bad cop with Lou. Because Lou had one style and he's very Abujayev about it, where it's just like, this is a lion den, you fucking kill or be killed, get the fuck out, I don't care, lift more weight, put 5 more pounds on. And you would end up, and I think it was Mike Rogeria, you would have to be like, hey Mike, you're doing okay, man. Just it's okay, just fix this, do whatever. How did you figure out that you could be that there was does this relate back to kind of the learning style of things? Because for me personally, as a coach, that really revolutionized how I looked at people, because it wasn't, like, here's how I coach. I know the program. I know how the body works and blah, 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 blah. None of that fucking matters if you can't connect with the person and you know who they are and you know what's going to actually help them learn and motivate them. How did you come to that? Did you trip and fall into it? Or was it just a little bit of empathy, or you just like, I know how to get this guy going?
I think it's a few things. I think that, as I said earlier, if I read something, I have to read it many, 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 many times. So I had to become a very good listener. So if a teacher or somebody or Louis or somebody was talking to me, I had to be very attentive. What are they saying? Is this bullshit? Is this not bullshit? What's a common factor that if it's bullshit, how do I know? And I think growing up that way, that helped that skill set to be able to realize with that. Then as I was training people, even going back to when I was helping people in high school, I started to realize things like if I was standing to the side of somebody and I was telling them what to do on the squat, some people would turn their head, other ones didn't. And I'm like, well, what? I don't want you turning your head. That's going to fuck your back up. I don't want that. So I stand in front. Right. And then after a while, I kind of started to connect this thing that maybe they're a visual learner. So instead of me telling them what to do, let's rack the weight and let me show you what to do. Or let me take my phone and film you doing it so you can see what to do. And then that worked, right? Where the other ones were more audible, so I started to pick those things up. And then the more you coach people, and especially the more seminars they did, sure. Because you're teaching squats, right? I would teach squats, benches, and deadlifts, and who knows how many at this point in time, a lot, right?
Yeah.
There were common things that's like, oh, this person does this. Obviously, I need to do this. This person just said this, I need to do this. This person said this, but what they really mean is this, because that's what everybody else has said. Well, that means that same thing. And so there's that. And then I also noticed there's a vast difference between those people who are very introverted, like powerlifters, right? And a lot of bodybuilders are that's why wrestlers, that's why they get into the sports they are. They don't want to deal with other fucking people. They just want to deal with themselves. That is a different person to connect with. It's a harder person to connect with, right? It's easier for me because I'm that person.
Right.
So I can see through the walls. I can see through the protection. Where I have a problem are the people that did well in team sports. So not really good at individual sports, but great at basketball, great at football. That's hard for me because that's a different communication style, with that. And it's a different employee too. So there's
right. Yeah.
So I still struggle with that one, but at least now I know that's my struggle. Who here can I bring over to try to explain this in a way that I can't? Because you've been doing this for a very long time too. Cues are, this is going to sound wrong, but follow me. Cues are stupid, right? Because cues are very specific to the individual. Yes. So I may tell somebody to do something and it gets filmed and it's the dumbest damn thing. Maybe I'm telling somebody, when you squat, drive your knees in as hard as you possibly can. Right? Because it's going to produce the desired outcome that I want, which is going to be a stacked joint. Right. But somebody films it and be, what the fuck is that? I'm like, listen, man, that was for that person. There's no cue that's for everybody. Right. And you can't I hate it when people say, well, what's the best cue to use to pack your neck? For who? Right. Because sometimes I got to use 5 different things. Then if you run out, you're like, oh, fuck, Jesse, come here a minute. Here, I'm trying. What I'm trying to get him to do? You're like, yeah. Well, see if you can do it. Right. That's a big part too, is you got to be able to know when you ran out of gas and you have to bring somebody else in to be able to do it, because maybe they'll say it and you'll be like, man, I didn't think about that. Yeah. And then you got another way. So you keep stacking those.
I think it's, just having you talk through that, I think it's amazing. And you have some sort of, you have a very special ability to be a coach and a teacher. And I think, you really have found, what you are great at, because out of everybody that, I've looked up to and tried to mirror myself against, you kind of going through that and starting to talk through, coaching styles and how to read people, see people, I think it's incredibly unique and very specifically unique to kind of the powerlifting thing, where it was just very dogmatic, yell until someone gets it, or if they don't, then fuck them, move on. I think you were one of the very, very few first people who, read outside of the X's and O's of training, if you will. And I think that's amazing. And you were able to, I think with that, not only, and if we take that a little bit further, right, and we start talking about the website and we start talking about the business, would you say that, having your father and, grandfathers with the small business aspect of things and maybe hiring people for the stuff that they weren't good at, did that kind of influence, how your coaching style and therefore your business style and everything else? Would you kind of track that all the way back to that? Or was there did you read a book or something that really kind of, really hit it home for you that really spun you into a spot? Or again, was there another mentor?
The upbringing definitely helped, because you see how small businesses are accepted in society, right? This past year has been a great example. So I knew as soon as this started, I knew exactly where small businesses were going. I knew exactly, because those people don't give a fuck about small business. They never have. So don't tell me they do now. They never have. So that helped, because I've seen that all along. It's like, okay, I'm just staying out of this. I have no control of this. This has nothing to do with me. Leave it alone. Deal with this, right? And that's not just this year. It's anything that has to do with politics going all the way back. Just don't give a fuck. Has nothing to do with me. It's not going to change what I'm doing right here. Now, if it does, then that's a different, that's a different discussion on how to be able to do that. So that helped from that aspect of what's important. It hurts in a way, because the hiring thing is largely dependent upon capital, right? So yes, you want to hire people to do the things that you can't do, but if you don't have the money to hire them, you can't do that. So you have to figure it out.
Right.
And that's the tough part. I still struggle with that now. There's so many other things that we have to be able to do and have to be able to get done, but we can't afford to hire people to do it. And it's like, well, fuck, it would be, and I can sit here and bitch and complain and say it would be so much easier, but at the end of the day, we got to figure it out.
Right.
We just have to figure it out. If we can figure it out enough to be able to get somebody to be able to do it, and then, kind of go for there. And so I don't know how that, yes, I've read a shit ton of books. I've read so many business books that I even still buy them now. And I'm not lying. There's probably 3,000 books out there in the lobby. Anymore, it's the same shit. It's been the same shit for 10 years. So you read it, and I can get through one of those things in 10 minutes, because maybe there's one chapter about something that I didn't think about, but a lot of times it will remind you of other things. And the having other people around you that know business helps as well, but they need to know business at the level you're at. Because, I can speak to people that have businesses that are much larger. I can't use their solutions because I don't have their money.
Right.
I talk to businesses that are 100% on a shoestring budget. I can use some of those solutions, but I got a little bit more wiggle room than what that is.
Right.
So when you find those people that are right about the same point, that's kind of gold, but it doesn't mean their answers are going to be any better than yours. So you got to talk to a lot of different people.
Who would you say is, as far as like kind of business wise, if we're kind of just taking our steps through, with your father, and then, your wrestling coaches, and then kind of Lou, who's kind of the next big mentor for you, kind of running into kind of the business world after, once you start doing the seminars with Lou, and then you end up, or for Lou, excuse me, and then you kind of branch off and you start EliteFTS, and then you kind of get going. And I know you made, lots of stops and starts there, but who is really, who would you say helped you kind of make the turn that you needed to really run into, the business that EFS is now? Because if we really look at it, I mean, besides you and maybe if we can even say Amazon, I mean, e-commerce wise, you're one of the very first that I'm aware of. And I know I have a very smaller bubble. I mean, who helped you figure out like, hey, dude, if you just put this shit on the internet, people are going to buy it? Or, how did kind of that happen? You know what I mean? Like, if we just keep
I wish we were as successful as Amazon. Holy shit.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But it was the backstory of that. At the time, we had ads in Powerlifting USA selling sleds and crap like that. And most of my revenue was consulting. So it was, somebody would hire me to go work with the coach, just to troubleshoot coaching things at the university, or some of them were just people. they just hired to be able to come out and consult with their group. Very few of these were powerlifters. The powerlifters were more the seminars, which was that as well at the time, but that was the majority of what I was doing. And I was contracted to do a seminar in South Carolina. And so when I went to do the seminar there, at the time, we had a website, which was just a banner site. It was a site that said Elite Fitness Systems, and we sell sleds and like 5 sled straps and like 5 other things. It was not interactive. It was a banner site. That's what they called them back then. And services, what it cost for my phone consults and shit like that. And so we're driving to dinner, dude in the back seat says, "Hey man, you ever thought about having a website?" I'm like, "I have one." Because I was answering the questions on Jason Burnell's site, Deep Spotter. I'm answering these questions on this other site, and I'm doing this. I'm good, man. It's solid. It's like, "Well, no, I got this buddy." And I'm like, "Well, okay, we'll talk." So afterwards, when I called him, and the Ken, he's still with me now, by the way. So he had a friend that was starting a forum. It was a Q&A type site. Just somebody would ask a question, you would answer the question, done. No thread, one question, one answer, no bullshit. That appealed to me because the way I was doing it at the time was Burnell would send me the questions that was sent to him. I would answer them in my terrible grammar. He would take that and put it up on Deep Spotter, and it would take him forever because he had to HTML code everything to put it up. And it was taking so damn long. So when he would send the questions, there'd be so many. This would allow a question, answer, boom, and it wouldn't have the bullshit of Go Heavy and other forums that were out there at the time. And it was free. He needed a beta site. And I'm like, well, fuck, let's do this. So it started as a Q&A with me just doing that. Right. And that just, it didn't blow up, but back then, it was 50 questions. I think throughout the whole period of that Q&A, I answered over 470,000 questions in the time frame that was up until we took it down. Social media kind of killed that. But and then we brought other people in. At that same point in time, he wanted to try, his goal was to create a shopping cart. And then with the shopping cart, to take the shopping cart and then lease it to other people. But he needed somebody to be able to be a beta for that shopping cart. That happened to be me, so the whole first several years, I didn't have really any money invested in the shopping cart, just a shit ton of time, because it was the R&D and putting everything in there and all the other stuff. And then, his intent was to take it to market and he could do whatever he wanted with it. But long story short, that never really happened. Other people jumped in front of him before that, and it is, but that's how the site started, right? So I was in the right place at the right time and then took advantage of the opportunity that came. I could have just said, no, I'm not going to talk to you about this. Right. And then who knows what would have happened.
Yeah. So just a little bit of an offshoot on that. Have you ever considered yourself the creator of internet trolls?
Mm-mm.
No? With Jackass, you don't think he was the first one?
There were already trolls, right?
I know there, but that's those are on.
Right. But so Mark he was a good troll. That's a funny story. I'll tell you that one. But and the trolling that was going on back then, people today still can't even compete with that stuff.
No, with
so fucking funny, some of those things. Yeah. And then anyhow, but
those message boards are still there. Do you ever go and visit? No.
I pretty much took myself off social media entirely over a year ago. So I don't even see Instagram. I have people that see it. I'll look at the YouTube stuff, but that's really about it anymore. Yeah. But with Mark, my intent was to take some of that, because I didn't want our sponsors and our representatives going out on forums, and because it was a mess and it wasn't good for a brand. And you're trying to create people, and you're selecting people that are going to be aspirational, people that other people can look up to, that can be able to help them. And then in some degree, I wanted to be able to control the narrative and that's probably a bad way to say it, because it wasn't censoring them. It's just like, don't talk about drugs, don't talk about politics, but you help everybody as best that you can. So I wanted to take all the bad elements that were going on in the forums and to remove them. So if people asked a question on a Q&A, they knew they were going to get a legit answer by somebody that knew what the hell they were talking about. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. But it was losing some of the comedy. There was no funny shit on there. So I brought Mark on just to fuck with people. And the thing was, I told all of them, I called them all, I sent emails. I'm like, look, I'm bringing him on. He's going to make fun of you. He's going to make fun of your training. He's going to make fun of this stuff. And they knew this, man. Like after a month, they're all pissed. And I'm like, it's a joke. So we had to pivot that, but yeah, so that the intent was good, but it didn't work real well.
I don't know. I think it worked out well for everyone. That was Jackass is still one of the legendary trolls.
Oh yeah, it's still up there. I mean, if you go to the footer of our website, you can still find all that stuff.
Yeah, I think I think that's amazing. Almost 500,000 questions. Was that you personally asked, or that were there were like 2 million pages we had to archive. We had to pull, just a couple years ago, we had to pull a bunch down because people don't understand this with content either. It's expensive. Right.
It's expensive to produce. It's expensive to pay the people to do it. It's expensive to keep all the pages alive.
Yeah.
And when you got millions of pages and most of these pages are getting 0 hits or 1 to 2 hits, you have to archive them, and get rid of a lot of them. But I think there were 2 million total, and that's training logs and Q&A. So it all kind of was the same.
I just remember living on those, and I just remember it was just such a treasure trove of information, especially for me, who was kind of just starting everything out. Out of everybody that you had on your forum, on the EFS forum, who was your favorite? Who do you think did the most good for everybody? Because I think at this point, I mean, God, what are we talking? Like 40 people, like in the history of everything, maybe more.
That's Jim, without a doubt.
Jim.
Yeah, I mean, there's without a doubt. He's impacted far more people than everybody else. I mean, they're all good people. There are very few people that we had to pull off, and anybody that we had to pull off was usually not because of bad reasons. They were because of non-compliance to whatever our agreements were. So it wasn't because of maybe a couple, did shit they shouldn't have done, but that was so rare. And but yeah, Jim, without a doubt. He also had probably the second highest number of questions answered too.
Yeah. How is your relationship with Jim? Kind of like in the same vein of Lou. What do you think about what he's done, where he's gone, and people's thoughts on Jim himself?
I don't care what people think about Jim. I really don't know that much what people think about Jim. He lives, 3 minutes. I mean, he lives down the road. So he's a hermit like I am. So I mean, we sit together maybe 3-4 times a year. And last year we saw each other like 4 times. We're like, man, this is way too much. We got so we had to cut it back. But I get along real well. I get along fine with him. It's great. I think what he's done is great. I think that what he's been able to build for himself is amazing because it fits exactly him and the life that he wants to have. The difference he made with the football program out here is freaking amazing. Granted, when the new coach took the job out here, they had a losing team. So there was the new coach, but there was also Jim. And Jim volunteers his time. He refuses to be paid. There's a couple reasons for that. One of them, he wants to call his own shots. That's Jim. So they can't tell him, go work with these people. Like, nope, I'm only working with these people. Yeah. But they've been in the playoffs for 3 years in a row. And these kids freaking love him. When I saw him the first year on the field working with these kids, that was the most I've ever seen Jim in his element in my entire life, ever. And since then he removed himself from that coaching part just for the strength coaching. But the couple times that I went out and watched him coach those kids, that's where he needs to be. Right. So he's in a good place. No, I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, he's another good friend, and we're going to be able to get to have him on in a couple weeks too. I think he's I mean, and I think he'll definitely credit, you and, some of your mentors as well as like, to help him kind of get to where he was. But I think I think you hit it right on. Jim is exactly who Jim wants to be, like it or love it or hate it.
And he did the work out, after he left, man, he propelled it too, man. So he did the work, man. He put in the work beforehand, then he did the work, and he keeps doing the work. And he's very, very good about doing the right work, so he doesn't waste a lot of his time doing work that really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's what I admire him for, probably more than anything.
So we usually have something on here where I ask, for people's favorites and least favorite things about either the business or the fitness industry or something along those lines. But I think that that's beneath you. And the reason is because I don't know if there's anyone out there in the whole wide world that I would rather hear rant than Dave Tate. So I was wondering if you could do us a favor and have, and you can take as much time as you want, but give us a rant, talk about something about that you love about the strength and conditioning world and something that you just hate. It can be as long as you want, but honestly, man, I have a list of YouTube Dave Tate rants that I still go back to, listen to, and love. And I think it would be fantastic if you could kind of drop a rant on us, in any way, shape, or form, even if it's just, we already kind of had a rant about, schools and teachers and kids and shit earlier. But I've never met anyone who can spit like you can.
The good things about I personally don't like the fitness industry at all. I fucking ignore that, right? Because to me, that's just a bunch of self-righteous assholes trying to rip other people off for bullshit they don't even need to be selling. Fact, right? Yeah. Hey, I'm happy. They're making millions of dollars, but they're not helping a goddamn soul. So, and it's so polluted. I'm sure there's good people in it. I know there's good people in it, but it's so polluted. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to jump in a pond full of dog shit just because it's got maybe one spot that's clean. Fuck it. I don't want to deal with that. So to step out of that, now you're in a much smaller pond, which is the strength and conditioning industry. And it's still there, right? So there's still that, but it's less convoluted, and probably because there's way less money. I make way more money, or make way less money than people think. If I told them, they'd be fucking shocked. I haven't made any more money in the past 10 years, going back further than that. And that's because of this. And I know what would need to be done to be able to do that. And it's just, I don't want to fucking deal with it. I don't want to fucking deal with it. So that's kind of my rant. It's not really a rant, but it kind of was.
No, it's perfect.
But the good thing is people are changing lives. So let's just take that other industry away. It just fuck them, right? But and I'm sure they're changing lives too. But in the strength and conditioning industry, people are making big fucking changes, like the ones that happened to me, sure it happened to you, happened to Mark, happened to all these other people. These things are intangible things, right? These are things that our maker is going to look on us and say, you know what, good job. You did something right? Those things matter to me. That's what really matters. So that's the good thing is, to me, it's my element. This is what I know. How I got involved in all this shit when I was 13, I still will never know. But how I was able to just make a career out of it, I may never be a fucking multimillionaire or millionaire. I don't give a fuck. How I was able to make a career out of it from what I thought I was going to end up doing, I don't know. So why? I suppose I do, but it's where I have the problem is when these people, it's all about money, right? And they're just fucking ripping people off. I mean, they know they're ripping people off. It's happening right now with online training at a rapid level, and nobody fucking knows. Yep. And here's your rant. This is what this is, and I don't do it. I don't offer it. So I'm outside of it. So I'm not a hypocrite here. I don't fucking do it. I do consulting, that's phone work, or I'll go there. I mean, that's a whole different thing that I've been doing since day one. And it isn't cheap. There's a reason for it. But
Right.
if you ask anybody who does online training, who you think's worth their salt, and you ask them how much they charge, and they tell you a couple $100, $250, $300, whatever it is, you're gonna seriously fucking tell me that's a custom program? You know what goes into being a custom program. You're gonna seriously fucking tell me that's a custom program. So they're seriously working for less than $20 an hour. Because that's what it's gonna come down to do this right. So, okay, let's say, oh yeah, it is custom. I'm gonna look at the videos each week. So you're gonna look at 2 fucking reps, 3 reps. If it's a squat, bench, and deadlift, you're gonna look at the last rep, which is actually being done in a greater fatigue state than all the other ones. You missed the other 100 they did warming up, but you're gonna base your programming decisions on 1 rep, and you're gonna tell me you're a professional. Bullshit, right? So physically, and they will all tell you this. They will all tell you this, but they won't say it online. They don't make enough to do the service the way it should be done. They would have to charge more to do a fully customized program. How many hours are going to go into that? What the assessment process is going to take time. And if it's online, it's going to take a lot of time. So there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of forms, there's a lot of assessment. Just to do a health history, you're going to have to, before you can even start the program, you got a health history, needs assessment, and lift assessment, technical assessment. You might have 4 or 5 hours just before you can even start to write the program. $250 for 12 weeks? Bullshit. This isn't a customized program, fucker. What you're doing is you wrote a program for 12 weeks that might have an Excel sheet in it, if you're good, that you change the max squat, which will then change the percentages of the lifts. The only thing that you're doing that's customized is sending the fucker that program each week, instead of just sending them the program that's already pre-created at the very beginning. So what you're essentially sending them is an ebook. So what you're now doing is you're charging somebody $250 for something they could probably get out of an ebook like 531, probably better, and for $30, right?
Yep.
So they're ripping people off, and then they're saying it's customized. Now on the other side, there's the consumer who's fallen for this shit, but at the same time, is the consumer going to be willing to pay somebody $325 an hour to hop on a call to talk about their training? Are they going to be willing to pay that? Right? So here's my rant. Stop saying it's customized. Right. Say it's semi-custom. You're sending these people the same goddamn program. Half these people aren't even doing adjustments on it. And you're just taking, you see, the whole industry's fucked. You know who gets fucked the worst? People who are my customers, people who are Slingshots customers. That pisses me off, because now you're fucking with people that are supporting companies that are doing their best to make a difference by putting content out for free, which isn't free, right?
Right.
It costs money. It's my one YouTube video for us, if it does good, might make $7.85. When I put my payroll hours into that, each one of them cost me $450 to make. All right, so we're running at a deficit, and I have to fix that problem, by the way. But that's what's fucked up with the industry right now. People
I couldn't agree more, and that's actually interesting, because that's the impetus of what we've done here at markbell.com. Because at the start of all the COVID stuff, I just saw the advertising, the at-home workouts and all this other stuff, charging people all this money. And that, I saw that, and I shot Mark a message. I was just like, oh my God. I was like, can I please send you 12 weeks of just like body weight workouts to put up on a website to just give it away for free? There's people who are losing their fucking jobs, and we have these dickheads out there charging whatever amount of money it is for a body weight program. Do some fucking air squats, do a push-up, do a burpee, run some sprints. Give me a fucking break. So it's actually interesting, because that's exactly how we got to where we are today, is exactly what your rant was. That was perfect.
Well, I mean, there's another side of it too, to where if there's people that are, say, influencers in the industry, and people really like them, these people, they have to have a way to support them.
Sure.
So Kai Green's a great example. He's got a zillion ebooks that are like 10 pages each, right? I don't really give a fuck. And most people probably don't care if those ebooks are good or not. They want to buy that because they want to support him. So maybe a lot of the people that are buying training from a lot of these people, it isn't so much about the training, it's more like, look, I just want to support you. So I don't think the industry has caught up yet with being able to come up with ways to be able to support those people so they can still put out content. You know, because a lot of these people, I mean, we run at a huge content deficit, huge, and that we can't continue to keep doing that. There's got to be a way to recoup some of that, you know, otherwise you just tailspin backwards. But I have sales to be able to do that. It just, what it does is it takes away from ad revenue and other things that I can put into. Some of these other people, they don't have that. You know what I'm saying? That the only revenue they have might be that online thing, but I don't think they realize that they may get a bigger return if they just sold an ebook, or because then more people would want to help them. I don't know. I don't know the answers. I just know the problem.
Right. And that's okay. That's all I wanted. I wanted to ask you if you could confirm or deny a couple of things out there, you know, whether you want to call them Dave Tate myths or not. And a couple of them are, I already know. Some of them I don't necessarily know. And then once we get through these, we have a couple of we have a ton of fucking questions from the listeners. We'll try and get a quick little Q&A going, and then we'll kind of send you on your way. And, you know, we've taken up so much of your time and we really do appreciate it. But can you confirm or deny that your middle name is not motherfucking?
It is not motherfucking.
There we go. Okay, cool. Because for a long time, and I did you write?
You want to know what it is?
Yes, actually I do. I tried to, as I was sitting here, I was jotting these down, and I was like, fuck, I didn't actually go back and find out. Cause is it anywhere? Have you written what your actual middle name is?
You ready for this?
Yes.
Leslie.
There we go. There we go. You know what, Dave? I'm almost positive that I never knew that. I knew your middle name wasn't motherfucking, but I do remember at one time that everyone was calling you Dave motherfucking Tate, and you came out and were like, my middle name is not motherfucking, but Leslie. All right.
That started after I did a seminar with T-Nation years ago.
Yeah.
And they had those pills. They're like spike pills or whatever they were. Yes. And I took way too many of them before I spoke. And when I spoke, I was throwing magazines and I was motherfucking this and motherfucking that because I hated everything that was going on with the industry. You know, it was probably me in my prime ranting days, and every other sentence was a motherfucking. And then I believe TC Loma after that, when somebody did a write-up of it, was Dave motherfucking Tate. And that's where it came from.
Can you confirm or deny the first time that you ate an avocado, you ate it like an apple?
I'll deny, because the first time I ate it, yeah, I believe so. Because the first time I ever ate one was when John Berardi taught me how to make that. No, actually, I did bite into the damn thing. Yes, I did. So that's true.
That's actually a story that John had shared with me before.
Yeah, that's true.
That if you're denying, I mean, I believe you.
No, that's true. That's true. Because I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then he had to teach me how to make that paste crap for, you know, guacamole out of it. I had no idea.
Oh, do you like avocado to this day, or could you?
I like guacamole, but it's not like something I'm going to crave.
All right, fair enough. Confirm or deny? EFS once changed its website, and the landing page was pink.
Pink?
Pink.
No, I don't think so. Unless it was an accident. No,
I thought you changed it for a day, and it was pink, and it just you guys got hammered. But that's just something that was floating out there. No, deny. All right. Well, hey, we got Leslie, and we got the incorrect way to eat avocado. I think those are.
You know what? It could have happened because we did do some weird things like that, but I don't remember that.
Okay. Confirm or deny? You actually sold an invisible band on EliteFTS.
Confirm. Nobody bought one because we were asking $10,000 for it.
Okay. No, I wanted to know if anyone actually tried to buy it.
No.
Right.
Well, keep in mind, I had to put 10 grand on it.
Right.
Because you put it for like $10, we're going to have to do refunds.
Yes. Okay. All right. Those are my myths that I wanted to make sure of. I was always curious if someone tried to buy an invisible band from you, because that would have just been fantastic. Let's do, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew for a little bit, try and get a couple of Q&A questions going, and then we'll send you on your way, Dave.
Yeah, we'll try to get it as quick as possible. But and it's funny. So on this series, we always come up with some entrepreneur ideas, some new business ventures, and we just got it just now. The EliteFTS paste avocado shit or whatever that was. That would be fantastic.
The green paste shit.
Yeah. One debate, I guess I'll say, on the live chat was, did you have a nickname at Westside? And if you did, what was it?
Zippy.
It was Zippy. Okay, so Josh Sedlich got it right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's get into some of the fan questions. Real quick from Art, he asked, any tips for an older beginner lifter?
That's a real general question.
Yeah, it's just that. But I mean, I guess we can just say in general, like a new lifter, but maybe just some considerations with I guess some mileage on the knees, the back, and that sort of thing.
It's a new lifter.
Yeah, just an older gentleman though.
Yeah, spend some time. When I say time, like 3-6 months, with just extra focus on, I call it the core. Everything that deals with everything between your knees and your sternum. So all your training, focus on that. Don't worry so much about the extremities at all. Build all that up while also developing good recovery habits, GPP, if it's walking or just something to get the body moving. What I'm trying to do here is I hate the word bulletproof, but people understand this. Trying to bulletproof, the spine and the vulnerable areas instead of people just going gung-ho on the benching and arm work and all the other crap, and then putting habits in there that are going to help with the recovery, which becomes more of an issue as you get older. So that way, once you get through that phase and you start looking into different programs, different type of phasic training to move off of that, you're at a good starting gate. I call it, you got to get to the starting gate no matter what you want to train for. So if you want to train to do a bodybuilding show, or you want to train to do a powerlifting meet, or you want to train to break a PR, when does that training start? 10 weeks, 8 weeks, you can worry about that later, but what do you think it's going to be? Most people are going to tell you anywhere between 8 and 12. Then what are you going to do now to make sure when you get to that starting line, you're in the best possible condition and shape to be able to get through those 12 weeks without disruption?
Got it. Cool. Another one. This one's from Kate, who's actually here in the live chat as well. She says her right tricep seems to always fail her during high reps on the bench press. Any suggestions to make her tricep stronger?
Well, the first thing that went through my mind is, who cares? Okay? Well, it's during high reps.
Right.
I mean, so we're not talking about, to me, we're not talking about like a strength thing. We're talking about an imbalance that could be strength endurance, which probably isn't even associated with the tricep. So I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, that would be my answer for that.
Perfect. I love that. So this one's from Ruben. Volume versus max effort workouts, which gives better and quicker results? I didn't explain whether it was for physique or strength, so I guess we'll just go with strength for right now.
If it's strength, I'm going to say which gives better results. If you're going to go 1-to-1, I'm going to say the max effort, but that's all things being even. And the only reason I'm saying that is because there's a skill aspect to lifting heavy weights, right? So if you're talking about what's going to make you stronger, lifting submaximal weights all the time isn't going to develop the skill aspect that's needed to stabilize the weight before you absorb it. If we got to lift big weight, you have to first stabilize the force, then absorb the force, and then produce the force. That's a skill set that's learned. I'm not telling you to only lift heavy. You gave me an option here between one or the other and what's going to have the greatest result in regards to strength. That's the answer. Is it right? Absolutely not. You need
Cool. This is from our buddy Rob, and we'll do this one and then one more after this because we have been going for quite a while. What's the best part of coaching so many successful lifters?
Living vicariously through their PRs. And there's nothing better. And it doesn't even have to be a great lifter. Sometimes sometimes that's not the best. Watching somebody do something they didn't think they were otherwise capable of doing is fucking awesome. And it doesn't matter if it's a 200-pound bench or a 300-pound bench. If they didn't know going into it, if they had that doubt, like, man, I don't know, and then they do that, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be 900-pound all-time world, a 900-pound all-time world record by somebody who always knew they were going to do it, that just assumed they were going to do it and was cocky and predicted it. That doesn't do anything for me. The person that squats 315 for the first time, that never thought they were going to be able to squat 2 1/4, man, I'll go to bed that night thinking that's fucking awesome.
That's incredible. Yeah, we've heard a couple of people talk about that on the show, and that's so cool. All right, we'll finish up with this one. This is from Stefano. Who is the person you bonded with the most at Westside?
I still train with them, Todd Brock and Joe Amato. So both those guys still train with me on the weekends now. I mean, I hate to count the years up, but we probably train off and on for 3 decades now. So it would be a disservice to say anybody else because they're still part of my life.
It's fantastic, Dave. Again, I don't know if I could ever really express to you how much of a difference you've made in my life. And I know Mark feels exactly the same way. And I know that we are not alone when we do say that. So just want to say thank you for, going through the things you did, making the mistakes that you did, showing us how to correct those mistakes and how to move on from those. And just thank you for being you. And more importantly, thank you for, just being a great human being and showing us, giving us a template on how to live, learn and kind of pass on. There is no one else in this industry like you, and really appreciate and love you. And thank you so much for your time. And let everybody know, kind of where to get more of Dave Tate.
They can find us at EliteFTS.com. Our YouTube, we have that rolling, with our Instagram as well. Me personally, right now, I kind of backed off of all that to focus on other aspects of the business that actually generate revenue for the business. But I am putting things, on YouTube. So, definitely follow us on the YouTube, because we're putting a lot of effort into that right now. And then the articles on the site are always the articles on the site. So that's the best way. This is actually probably the first podcast I've done in a 1.5 years. So, I appreciate you guys bringing me on, but Mark helped me out a lot over the summer. So I appreciate that. He knows that, but make sure, I said that again, I totally appreciate that, because we needed it, and he stepped up. So there's, things go in circles.
Absolutely. And I feel very honored to have you on, and really do appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you very much. Anyone who's listening and watching, if you like what you heard, sign up, get going, so we can keep this Super Friends series moving. And again, just incredibly, thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for everything.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.